Hi, my name is Carson, and today we're going to give a persuasive speech. Here's my dad over here, and here's Najla, that's my audience. Alrighty, here we go. To space and beyond man. So, Earth has a limited life, and scientists predict that Earth could expire by the year 2100, so we need to get off of Earth and find other planets that we could live on. There are many benefits to the technology of space exploration, and the majority of these benefits have come from robotic space exploration, not manned space exploration. So despite America's love affair with putting humans into space, manned missions are 1. More risky, 2. More expensive, and 3. Yield fewer scientific benefits than their unmanned space exploration counterparts. So we need to find a suitable planet for humans to live on, to move on to, and this begs the question of how we should go about that. So manned missions are more expensive than their unmanned equivalents, and in an article quoted by Robin McKee in The Observer, she says, quote, "The Apollo missions for the 1960s and 1970s cost $25 billion, more than $100 billion today. From this perspective, manned missions are more than 100 times more expensive than robot missions." Steven Weinberg, a Nobel laureate in physics, wrote a review of President Bush's space plan, and he went on to say, quote, "NASA estimates that the cost of sending astronauts to the moon and Mars would be around $470 billion to $541 billion. This was roughly in 1991 dollars, so today this translates into about $700 billion. He continues to compare this with $820 million, not billion dollars, to send robots, the Spirit, the Opportunities to Mars. And that's 1/1000th of the cost of robots in space versus mans in space. So this really brings home the point that if we're going to explore space, we need to get the best bang for our buck. We need to be efficient about it, and it needs to be worthwhile. So it's difficult to justify sending humans into space given the requisite price tag that goes with it, but it's also much riskier to send humans into space as opposed to robots. You don't need to look much farther than the Challenger or the Discovery accidents where astronauts lost their lives. So these are some of the cream of the crop human beings, some of the smartest, most well-educated people, and these disasters took place. And it had a human price tag that isn't associated with the monetary price tags. Say the disaster still happened, but robots were on board, not humans. A loss of money would have taken place, not a loss of life. This wouldn't be nearly the disaster that it is. To go into a little bit more detail about how it's risky, the US government had a hearing on space flight against manned missions into space, and 2 points were brought up from this, 2 main points. First, the greater distance that is required to go to Mars and beyond necessitates that if something is to go wrong, the problems associated with getting a man back make the timeline nearly impossible. You know, there's instances of things going wrong with travel to the moon, but the moon's not that far away actually relative to other celestial bodies, and therefore we were able to rectify that problem in a short amount of time. That said, it wasn't nothing to do it. Movies have been made about this. Secondly, zero gravity has debilitating effects on humans, such that bone density is lost. There's a quote from this hearing that says, "Astronauts can lose between 6 and 24% of their bone mass over the course of 1 year in space." So it's becoming increasingly more difficult to justify sending astronauts to space for monetary price tags, riskiness measured in human life, and other just success rates. But lastly, we'll talk about the yields of human missions versus unmanned missions. So in that same hearing from the US Congress, there was a quote that says, "Some advocates of bolder missions for NASA argue that both the shuttle and the space station consume large amounts of money simply to send humans repeatedly into low Earth orbit without moving toward any more ambitious or compelling goal." And this really is concerning. And are we doing this for pure hubris? Are we stroking our egos to show that we can put men in space and inhospitable environments? I mean, is it wise to potentially sacrifice human life here? Probably not. So, moving on, let's talk a little bit more about the efficiency of yield that robots have. We've heard in the past that Teflon was developed by the space agencies and Velcro as well. The reality is that Teflon was developed by DuPont in the early 20th century, and Velcro was developed by the Swedish in the 1940s. And NASA actually says this on their website, but these were suggested economic benefits that had come from the space program that had yielded to us from manned missions and now had fallen out along to humans around the world. When in reality, the benefits of unmanned missions have given us GPS satellites, much improved communication. GPS satellites every day, if you use Google Maps or Garmin or anything, the importance there is impressive. So James Van Allen, a professor at the University of Iowa, actually worked on one of the first satellites to go into space. He says, quote, "Almost all of the space program's important advances in scientific knowledge have been accomplished by hundreds of robotic spacecraft in orbit about Earth and on missions to distant planets." So how do we resolve this? How do we really make it worthwhile and send this point home? So human-like robots, a composite approach between humans and robots, is the answer. NASA already knows this and has invested down this path. Taskier Padin, a recipient of NASA's grant, said, quote, "Humanoid machines could easily undertake activities dangerous for future astronauts. Extreme space environments are dangerous for humans, and robots are ideal for dangerous tasks." So advancements in robotics have allowed robots to take the lead and take over in a way that humans can't compete really anymore. Not only are they more durable, but they're more beneficial. They are able to stand up to radiation in the environment and other temperatures that humans can't. We need oxygen. Robots don't. Lawrence Krauss, a physicist, wrote in Scientific America, Rethinking the Dream, quote, "We have sent robots to space where humans could never have survived and peered into the cosmos with instruments far more capable than our human senses, all for a small fraction of what it cost to send a living, breathing person into Earth orbit. Our robotic technology continues to improve." Martin Rees, and the astronomer, a renowned astrophysicist, stated when he was interviewed by The Guardian, quote, "If you look at the great discoveries that have already been made in the solar system, exploration, the vast majority have been carried out by robots." So what does this all look like at the end of the day? Robot benefits are greater than human benefits. Robots don't need to return home, robots don't need food, water, and robots don't need to be protected from the environment that's harsh, space. There's a certain psychological cost of sending humans into space. Even if it is successful, spending 10 years in space as a human is not nothing. For a robot, 100 years is nothing. Infinity is nothing. So robots also provide more information, not only in the quality of information, but the quantity of information that humans can provide. And it's important to understand that human life cost, this gets back to that psychological point, is not the same as a robot's life. So in conclusion, it's about time we retired manned missions into space and we recognize what NASA's getting after, and we do that. There's a limited future for humans on Earth, and space is the only place we can turn to. Manned missions aren't advancing our knowledge fast enough, and it's time we admit that. Thank you.